What's going on, everybody? Zach Stein here with Gavin Lemke. Welcome back to the Onside Kick Show, your favorite NFL show. Gavin, how you feeling today?
And I'm feeling good, dog. It's playoff weekend. First playoff game in 30 years. I'm excited. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Could be better. Would have been nice if Bears had any idea what to do as a franchise. But aside from that, feeling pretty good. Bears are not ready for some playoffs. And hey, man, I'm happy for the Lions, dude. We'll talk about that later, about how far we think they're going to go. But they look pretty damn good right now. So
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
of course, you got to represent the NFC North. I don't want to hear any Packers representing. It's if one team's got to win it, I'm okay with the Lions doing that.
Appreciate that, man. Everyone says that.
Of course,
You, dog.
yeah, bandwagon. But here we are. Well, welcome back to the show. We've got a lot of exciting things to talk about. It's playoff football. Just got past Black Monday as well, so a lot of coaching vacancies, potential candidates. So we got a lot to cover on the pod here today. So if you guys do enjoy, be sure to show your support in the comments or like below, and prepare for a good episode. So without further ado, let's jump into our trivia for the day. So fantasyindex.com, of course, is going to power our trivia. It is January 9th, 2024, and we're recording this on a Tuesday. We're trying to switch it up a little bit. The question today is, in the last 20 years, of course it's a Packers question, in the last 20 years, the Packers have had 3 different quarterbacks throw for 30-plus touchdowns in a season. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and Jordan Love. Who are the only 2 other franchises to have done this? And so looking for not only 3 different quarterbacks, but with each team of them doing it in the last 20 years. What? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of not understanding the question, but bro, they're trolling you with the Packers questions.
Yeah,
Imagine if they
can't
put in
get you a break.
parentheses like this is more than any Bears quarterback ever. Like, by the way, they're
Yeah,
trolling.
yeah. Would have been really rough if they mentioned that. Good thing I
Yeah,
had
because
you
I haven't
mention
heard that
that. Bring
before.
that up. Yeah. Hey, brighter days ahead. I don't even. I can't start the episode like that. I can't do it.
Save
I
it.
can't do it.
Save it.
But in terms of other franchises that have done this, besides the godforsaken Packers, so
Yeah.
they've 2 franchises that have had 3 different quarterbacks throw for 30-plus touchdown in a season in the last
Yeah.
20 years.
First thing that came to mind for me was the Saints, like Archie Man. I don't know if they were throwing the ball enough back then, but with Archie Manning and then Drew Brees, and then like one person in between those two.
I think there
And
was Aaron
that's a
Brooks.
big
I
gap.
think
That's from like
scored.
the 70s to like the early 2000s, that gap.
Right, so it's the last 20 years for this question. But
Yeah,
but
okay.
you did
I
bring
didn't
up
know
the
that.
Saints. Do we know how many passing touchdowns Derek Carr had this year? There's no way he hit 30, did he?
I'm not sure. Honestly, I
Okay.
know he was in and out of the lineup. Like I know Jameis got some reps. They had another dude getting some reps. I doubt he threw for 30 this year.
Mm.
Um, hmm.
So there's 2 franchises that have had 20 years, 3 quarterbacks. I mean, I know like Tony Romo, Dak Prescott for the Cowboys, that would be 2, but I don't know if there was another guy who did that. And 20 years, we're talking 2003, I guess you could say 2004, but probably 2003. Definitely wasn't the Bears. Definitely wasn't the Lions. Vikings, maybe? Trying to
Vikings,
think.
Kirk Cousins, Brett Favre. I see those two easily throwing for 30 touchdowns.
In the 1 year that he played there, did he throw it for 30?
He had like damn near an MVP season. I remember he brought them to the NFC Championship.
Okay, so maybe he
He's a
had
really good
30.
quarterback. I
The
think Vikings isn't a bad. That's not a bad guess.
third guy, it probably would have been Dante Culpepper, but I don't know if he
Dante
played.
Culpepper. I
I
mean, he
don't
was throwing
know.
to Chris Carter and Randy Moss. I could see him getting 30 touchdowns.
But that I don't know if that was before or after 2003. I think it was before. But
So this had to be in the last 20 years.
yeah. So I really don't know.
Yeah, that feels like the 90s. That feels like the 90s if Dante Culpepper's
Yeah.
throwing 30 touchdowns.
Especially Chris
Um,
Carter. I don't think he played a ton into the 2000s. So I don't
is it
know.
cheating if I look up Dante Culpepper's like career stats year by year? Is that
I
cheating?
don't think so. No, because that doesn't make or break the guess. While you do that, I'm looking through the different franchises just on paper, like
Yeah.
Ravens. don't think so. Browns, definitely not. Steelers, no. Bengals.
Dude, sneaky Andy Dalton.
I was going to
I
say
bet you he threw
Burrow.
for 30.
Burrow,
Also,
Dalton, and Carson Palmer.
2004. Yeah, Carson Palmer as well. 2004, Dante Culpepper was a Pro Bowler and he threw for 39 touchdowns.
Was that on the
So I
Vikings?
think that was in 2004. So that's within the last 20 years.
Ooh,
I feel like the
okay.
Vikings. Should I look up Brett Favre? Or am I cheating too much?
I think that would be too much. And honestly, let's see. We've already spent 5 minutes on this question. I'm looking through the other teams. I don't know. Like Bills, I don't think so. Dolphins, Jets, no. I mean Patriots. Matt Castle had a good year, but I think that was like 28. I don't think he had 30.
Yeah.
Raiders, Chiefs. I would be down to just send the Vikings.
Let's go. Let's go Vikes. Let's go
Yeah.
Vikes.
Let's run it. It would be kind of crazy if they had it in the NFC North, but it's going to be the question if 2004 is in the 20 years or not. So, final answer, Vikings. Let's see. Come on,
Oh shoot.
show us the money. That's
Yo,
the
there
right
were two
answer.
teams.
That's
Two
the right
teams.
answer. Is it? Oh no, it is.
Minnesota and Cincy.
Yo,
Man,
you
we were
actually. Wow, I
we
didn't
were
even see that
mentioning
second part.
Cincinnati.
Hey man, I'd say we got that right. We hit that right on the head. We got both
We
those
did
teams.
we did get that right on the head. That was quick thinking.
Let's go.
You said Minnesota, and instantly I was like, Brett Favre. He
Uh-huh.
had to have done it. They got
Yup.
Brett Favre, Dante Culpepper, Kirk Cousins, and then Cincy with Carson Palmer, Andy Dalton, and Joe Burrow. Sneaky, really good quarterback franchises right there.
Carson.
Franchises that haven't really won anything recently.
Yeah, I know. Bengals got really close, but, your boy John Matthew Stafford had to put him in their place. We'll see if he does that again this year. We'll see. We'll see.
Hey man, we finally got one. We finally got a trivia question right.
Yes, that you like to see that. That's why you tune into the show every week. We're getting better as it goes on. Hey, good stuff. Good stuff. That being said, a lot of news that happened recently, especially in the realm of coaching. Obviously, the season has ended. Teams headed to the playoffs. Other teams not headed to the playoffs. Starting to clean house a little bit. So why don't we talk about some of the big things that happened this week? One of them being Black Monday. Let's talk about that because we now have 6 vacancies for head coaching jobs. We got the Titans fired Mike Vrabel in somewhat of a shocking move. We got the Panthers. Obviously, they got rid of Frank Reich pretty earlier on. Same with the Chargers, Brandon Staley. Raiders, got rid of Josh McDaniels. AP looks like a pretty good candidate, but still they're going to do their due diligence. We got the Commanders firing Ron Rivera. And then, of course, the Falcons getting rid of the son of the FedEx, or the CEO of FedEx, Arthur Smith, no longer the coach there, with hopefully some more moves to be made as well, like, getting Matt Eberflus out of Chicago, fingers crossed. But what stands out to you from the Black Monday that we experienced yesterday?
I guess kind of the Black Tuesday from this morning, Mike Vrabel getting fired. That shocked me to hear. He's a really great coach, just 2 losing seasons his last 2 years, coming right off that coach of the year the year prior to that. But I guess it's a what have you done for me lately league, and I think there's better opportunities for him out there. I think the Titans are kind of dismantling the whole franchise. Obviously, Derrick Henry's gone. Mike Vrabel's gone. I could see Mike Vrabel going to like New England or something. I could see him going home. He won 3 rings there. During his bye week this year with Tennessee, he was in New England. They were inducting him into their Hall of Fame, actually. Just the fact that he took his bye week to go and do that, I feel like it kind of speaks a lot to his loyalty toward the organization. And I think he'd be a great fit, man. I think he represents the Patriot way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I was going to bring up that the Ring of Honor or the Hall of Fame, whatever he got inducted to. I'm going to bring that up because, he said we in his speech, implying that he was still a member of the Patriots, right? So, fun fact about Mike Vrabel, even though he was a linebacker, he actually has 10 career receptions for 10 career touchdowns.
Yeah, man.
So he's a stud. He can do it all. He can catch, he can tackle, he can coach.
Yeah, he's a J.J. Watt build.
He is, yeah. Throw him in at tight end, and he'll get it done. just a real like people guy, a real a Dan Campbell type motivator. Another guy who would be willing to bite off an extremity of his body for a ring. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look up what Mike Vrabel said he would do to win a
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
Instantly. I feel like he would instantly just enter a locker room and the guys would instantly respect him and they would want to kind of follow his lead, especially in New England. Like they would trust him for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I think that would be the perfect scenario if you get rid of Belichick, because not only is that a Belichick like coaching tree guy, I believe, but it's just like,
Yeah.
played there. He still has love for the team. And you do
Yeah.
need a motivator. Like the Patriots have always been on that, highly motivated type of way. Yeah, the Patriots way, like you talked about. So getting a good people guy in there would be good. And, they've relied on their defense with Belichick in the last few years since their offense hasn't really been that good. So why not change things, or why not keep things the same, right? Why not bring in another guy to coach the defense? But
Yeah.
I think yet to be determined if Belichick is going to leave. We still got some time, but that would be a great candidate for him. I mean, I would love to see him come to a team like the Bears, just change the culture a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And what the Titans owner had said is, because originally I thought it was going to be like, oh, he just wants a fresh start. I think the Titans owner said that the team needs a fresh start. So they did make the decision to fire Vrabel. He wanted to stay, which I think says a lot about him as well.
Yeah.
Didn't have as much success as they wanted to, but he still
And
wanted to stay there.
let's just clear up some of the semantics real quick. He wasn't fired. They parted ways.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Meanwhile, the Titans sending Derrick Henry off in free agency. It looks like he gave a farewell speech in the last
Yeah.
home game where they knocked the Jags out of the playoffs, and probably seen the last of Ryan Tannehill behind the helm. And Titans looking to just start from the ground up, and so they're going to be looking for a new head coach. Let's talk about a team with a little bit more talent on the roster in a pretty appealing spot for a new potential head coach. Falcons.
Oh yeah.
Getting rid of Arthur Smith, and they got a lot of weapons there.
Yeah, I mean that kind of shocked me after what happened week 18 to end the game. With Jameis Winston and them, they lined up in the victory formation, handed it off to Jamison Williams, ended up getting the touchdown. Dennis Allen and Arthur Smith meet at midfield. Arthur Smith is telling him, he's like, "Hey, I didn't like what you guys just did. Kind of a bush league move by you guys to score that touchdown when you already had the game sort of wrapped up." And Dennis Allen is like, "Listen, man, my bad. I didn't know my players were gonna do that." Kind of showing to me that Dennis Allen lost his locker room, lost all the control of his players. They kind of went rogue on him. And yet the next day we wake up and Arthur Smith is the one who's been fired, who I think all season schematically was the better coach. Dennis Allen was horrible. And I told you, I said, whichever team doesn't, I said the team that finishes last in the NFC South, probably the coach is going to get fired. I thought all three teams that didn't make the playoffs, all those coaches were going to be fired. But the Arthur Smith one kind of surprises me just because I like him. But I think it surprises me more because Dennis Allen is still the coach in New Orleans. Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dennis Allen, not the worst guy available. Like I guess they finished with a winning record. I believe they're 9-8, but still, yeah, Arthur Smith could have kept him, give him another year, but 3-7-10 seasons not really showing a ton of promise. The reason I do agree with the firing is because every year they spent their first round pick, which was a top 10 pick most of the time, getting an offensive weapon. They got Drake London. Well, first they got Kyle Pitts. They got Drake London. They got Bijan Robinson. And they didn't see any improvement. And I know there was some inconsistent quarterback play. Desmond Ridder, not really the guy. Taylor Heineke, not really the guy. But still, you got to think with an offensive genius like that, so-called offensive genius like that, he would do a little bit more with the team because the defense took a big step up. The O-line has been great. They've been really good at developing their young guys. Chris Lindstrom is one of the better guards in the league. Jake Matthews, the left tackle, has been there forever. Caleb McGarry is a first-round pick by them. He's been pretty solid at right tackle. So, I understand why they want to make a change. But aside from the quarterback, that offense is looking pretty good. You need another receiver. But do you have anybody in mind that maybe could step in there and turn the team into a contender?
As a head coach or a quarterback?
You know what? Both, honestly.
Man, you're going to hate me, but Fields would look great in Atlanta. Fields would look great. I think he's from the Georgia. I think he's from Georgia, right? Am
Yep,
I wrong?
yep. He's a Georgia
Yeah,
boy.
man. I hope he goes home. I think he would just fit in with that offense perfectly. Like you mentioned, all they really need is a quarterback. He's a mobile quarterback. He could throw the football if he's put in the situation. Um, as far as the head coaching candidates, not really sure. I think that they would want probably an offensive guy to help work with all those weapons that they got there at the skill position players, but yeah, not really a lot of offensive minded head coaching candidates out there. At least ones that are real candidates. Like you talk about Jim Harbaugh, he's still at Michigan as far as we know. Ben Johnson, he's still a Detroit Lion as far as we know. You're not going to take him from me. But yeah, Fields to Atlanta, people have been talking about it all year, and I would love to see that.
Yeah, I think, whether or not I would love to see him continue on the Bears, there's no denying. I mean, a team like Atlanta would be almost perfect for him. I would say if they had Arthur Smith there, I'd feel bad for him if he was going, but anybody else could take up the reins there, and maybe they do go for a defensive guy. They had a pretty talented defense as well. Jesse Bates probably going to be an All-Pro. Calais Campbell was a vet who was playing really well. They had a lot of injuries, but maybe you say, okay, well the offense is ready to go. Besides the quarterback, we just need a guy who can coordinate. Meanwhile, if there's a big locker room guy available who happens to coach defense, maybe you go for there. So I think Atlanta, you could go a bunch of different directions, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try and trade up for a quarterback as well. They've spent the last 3 picks on offensive players. Why not also get a young quarterback? But if you can't afford that, then I agree. Somebody like Fields would be a great option for them. Um,
Yeah.
it's
Or
going to be
something
interesting to
like
see.
a Jaden Daniels type in the draft, or maybe a Penix, like kind of a mobile guy that's shown that he can air it out deep, because Kyle Pitts, like we haven't really seen what we wanted to out of Kyle Pitts lately.
hmm
Drake London, he had a pretty good season, but there's so much untapped potential there.
Yeah, Drake London now the has the most receptions in his first 2 years by any Falcons player. So there's something to be said there.
Yeah.
Sure-handed guy.
Yeah, that
But
guy's a dog, but I think didn't Desmond Ritter say he's like, I'm not leaving until I win a Super Bowl?
well,
Someone said it
Desmond, that may not be up to
someone
you,
said it
my
sounded
friend.
like a threat.
Well, if it's between him and Justin Fields, who knows? It's between Desmond Ritter and a Drake May or something like that. Who really
Mhm.
knows? I mean, Falcons definitely have some draft capital they could trade. I think Arthur Blank, all things considered, is a pretty good owner, so he's going to make the right moves to get his team back in contention. Because right now the NFC South is very vulnerable. The Bucks going to the playoffs, obviously, but one game that they lost instead of a win would have gone the other way. Um, so interesting stuff there. There's a lot of good vacancies as well. I mean, the Chargers have a really appealing team. You
Yeah.
got Justin Herbert. Obviously, that's one of the few teams with a head coaching vacancy that you don't have to worry about the quarterback. So I think that's probably going to be very high demand. Meanwhile, you got the Panthers. Let's talk about the Panthers for a little bit because, in my opinion, I think David Tepper, their new owner, has single-handedly sold this franchise away. We're not talking financially. He has made some really critical errors to kind of dig a hole for himself, and now I don't know if any team is going to want to coach there because you have Bryce Young, you had the first overall pick, which I think it's way too early to call him a bust. You can say CJ looks better now, but who knows? We really don't know. We got to give him some time. But with that being said, he's in one of the worst positions to succeed of any team in the NFL. And if they can't keep their GM there for more than a couple of years, they can't keep their head coach there for more than a couple of years, who's going to want to come in and coach there?
Yeah, they're not building anything special over there right now. I think it's going to be probably a decade before they're contending for anything, and I just feel bad for Bryce Young. Like that sucks getting drafted into that situation. I bet you Stroud wouldn't have had a great season if he was drafted into that situation.
Right.
Just kind of goes to show how important just a good franchise and management of a franchise, how important that is. But yeah, David Tepper, man, he's an embarrassment. He really is. I saw the video of him from his box throwing a drink on a fan. That was just embarrassing for a billionaire owner to be doing to a fan who's attending the game. And then yeah, firing the GM. If you can't have a GM last for more than 3 years, there's going to be no consistency with your drafts. And yeah, man, I feel for Bryce Young. They really don't have much talent other than a young Bryce Young. I like Jeremy Chin, like guys like that. Like I like Derek Brown, Brian Burns, but other than that, not a lot to offer in Carolina, and it's sad.
And a lot of those guys didn't get contract extensions. Like Brian Burns, GM could have traded him for 2 first-round picks for the last 2 years. That was the price, and teams were willing to give that up. He did not do that, and now without a GM, he looks to be headed into free agency. And
Yeah,
so I
I
think
feel like
that's a
they
critical
hate
miss.
draft picks, man. They've traded like all of their draft picks.
Yeah, and it's sad to see because I do think if you're gonna blame it on the coach, you're gonna blame it on the GM. At some point, you got to take accountability with the ownership because the last I don't know 6 or 7 years since Tepper has been the owner, they've gone through 3 head coaches who have not lasted more than 3 years. Matt Rule was the longest, and he ran a very predictable and sad offense. And then you had Steve Wilkes, I believe, or no, what was his name? North Turner, is that his name? Who was the head coach? He came in there. They gave him 1 year, got fired after 1 season. And then you bring in Frank Reich, who had gotten fired from being bad at his job, and then you gave him another chance. You say, all right, we have the number 1 overall pick. We're going to give you your quarterback, and this GM, all right, hey, don't, whatever you want to do with the rest of the roster, that's your choice. But I'm telling you, you need to go trade up for the number 1 pick and get Bryce Young. So they gave up their first next year. But what do you know? Panthers team's still bad. Bears now have their first-round pick. The quarterback doesn't look great, and they've already moved on from the head coach. So there's no patience really involved here, and I think that's the most concerning thing with David Tepper. He's not patient.
Yeah, not patient at all. I think that they do need new ownership. It's sad to see, but yeah, you mentioned they had like Matt Rule. I feel like that's probably going to be their next coach is a guy like that, maybe a guy coming from college, a guy that doesn't like know quite what he's getting into. Like if you get the head coaching job there, you're gonna go like 2-16 or something. Like you're not gonna have or 2-15. You're not gonna have a great season, and that's what you're signing up for. So I don't think any experienced offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, head coaches. I don't think any experienced guys like Mike Vrabel are going to go take that Panthers job because there's just really nothing in it for them, honestly, except money, which David Tepper has a lot of. I'll give him that.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing for sure. So he better start spending that on hiring people who can actually help his franchise. Maybe get an advisor, classic McCaskey move, hire a consultant to help you hire some staff. Not saying that has worked in the past, but still, something's got to change. So let's talk about this team who does have the Panthers' first pick. We saw
Yep.
on Sunday, Bears fans hoping for a big game out of Justin Fields, hoping for a big game out of their team, out of their coach. Didn't have Jalen Johnson play, but once again, you fall to the Packers, this time the youngest team in the NFL, and there's questions about their offensive coordinator, their head coach, and even their quarterback. I'd love to go on a tangent here, but first, I want to hear what you think. As an unbiased, non-NFC North opinion, what do you
Yeah.
think the Bears should do with Justin Fields, Matt Eberflus, and Luke Getsy?
Yeah, well, objectively, I think you just got to acknowledge that Jordan Love is the guy, and that the Packers will continue to own the Bears probably for the rest of like next 15 years maybe. And it's sad, but it's a fate that you have to accept. I thought I like to be honest, I love Fields. Like I really want him to succeed in Chicago. Sucked to see what happened Sunday night against Green Bay, but I think he's still the guy. I think you hold on to him. I think you go make some coaching changes. And then I think you draft Marvin Harrison Jr. with that number 1 pick. Am I crazy?
I don't know. People are calling for to trade down and then get Marvin Harrison, but if he's the best player in the draft, you take him at number 1. Is that really the worst decision? That is a good
That's
point.
what I'm saying. If he's the most talented player, you draft him where the most talented player should be drafted. But now you could trade him if there are teams that want a Drake May or a Caleb Williams, then you trade that number 1 pick. Maybe get 2 first rounders that year. Get yourself a Odunze from Washington, and then maybe like an offensive tackle or something to build around Fields. But obviously, the last option there is to just take Drake May or Caleb Williams, number 1 overall. But I don't know. What's the opinion from Bears fans? From what I can tell, it's kind of 50-50 whether or not they want to keep Fields or draft Caleb Williams. You got an opinion on that?
Yeah, I do. I'm very strongly opinionated on this, and frankly, putting my Fields bias aside because I love him, I think he's been done an injustice in Chicago. Just the team letting him down. But in my opinion, if you're the Bears, you cannot make a decision on the quarterback until you have the coaching right. Because say what you will about Trubisky, he was taken at number 2 overall. If he wasn't taken at number 2 overall by the Bears, some other team was going to take him in the first round. Maybe they would have done better with him, right? Trubisky sure was a bust, but perhaps with a different coach would have been different. He did have a Pro Bowl year. He went to the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. Jay Cutler, huge trade. Got him from the Broncos. He looked like, at the time, you can compare that to the Deshaun Watson trade. We gave up multiple first-round picks for a guy who was looking to be like a young, budding quarterback. Jay Cutler never did anything in Chicago. So now when it comes to Justin Fields, right, when you get Trubisky out, you get Cutler out, these are all guys that the Bears are like, we need to get rid of them. He has been terrible for our franchise. See ya. This is the first time where Bears fans, for the most part, I would say, most of them are pining for Justin Fields to stay. And it's not that people don't want Caleb Williams, in my opinion. I think it's more so of like, for the first time, we actually may have something at quarterback. So why would we give that up when you could trade the first overall pick for a return of picks that we have probably never seen since like the Herschel Walker trade, which was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing here, if you're the Chicago Bears, if you want to move on at quarterback, you have to get a new coach. If you want to keep Fields, you have to keep the coach. The cycle has been the Bears draft a quarterback on the last year of their previous head coach. They get rid of their old quarterback. They keep the head coach. They get a new quarterback. Whereas if you're a new coach coming to the Bears, you got the first overall pick. No one is going to pass on that. Even if you have Fields, a new coach is going to come in and be like, I want my guy. So I need to take this guy at the number 1 pick. At that point, you got to get rid of Fields. But if you keep Eberflus and then you get rid of Fields, you're saying, all right, the quarterback was the only problem here. And in my opinion, it's definitely not. You saw so many drop passes by the receivers, terrible play calling. I think no matter what, Luke Getsy has to go. And if you want to keep Eberflus, got to keep Fields. If you're getting rid of Eberflus, you should probably trade Fields, start fresh with Caleb.
Okay. I like that. I love that, honestly. I think this draft is so loaded that if you trade that number 1 pick, the return could be, like you mentioned, like it could be historic. You could get so many first round picks in the future and like really build. I'm not gonna say like a dynasty or anything, but you could set yourself up pretty nicely for the future. I think that's the right move for the Bears to pull off right now. I agree with you.
And, we'll have to see what happens because, right now, middle of Tuesday, there's no word on any firings for the Bears. The rumor was that they're not going to decide till midweek. The one thing that could be different is that Kevin Warren, former Big Ten president, our last president was Ted Phillips. He was an absolutely horrible president. Didn't do anything for the Bears, really. Just caused a ton of problems, bringing in terrible GMs like Phil Emery, getting rid of Jerry Angelo, all these guys. Terrible decisions made, and he and McCaskey were kind of the 2 main goons in charge. Now you got Kevin Warren, and then Brian Poles, I think, is the first Bears general manager I can actually trust since Jerry Angelo back in the Lovie Smith era. And so whatever they decide to do, I'm okay with that. But it would just be such a Bears move to keep Eberflus and then go draft Caleb Williams, when in reality, you'd just be repeating the cycle. So hopefully Warren realizes this. He doesn't mess around. He is a football guy. He helped the Vikings relocate. He helped the whole Big Ten move. He knows what he's doing. I trust him. They got to make the right decision here. And whatever that decision is for Bears fans, whether it's Caleb or Fields, I think they'll be okay with it because they just want to see results. So as long as it nets some results, can't make a wrong decision. But enough Bears talk for the day. I could talk about this for hours. Team that's not even in the playoffs. Meanwhile, you got some really good playoff matchups coming up this week. A lot of revenge games. You've got the Browns and Houston. Deshaun Watson revenge game a little bit. He's on the sidelines, obviously, but They moved on from him. Browns are doing even better than they were with Watson, now playing a talented young Houston team. You got the Tyreek Hill revenge game, Dolphins at Chiefs. Steelers, Bills is kind of the only one that doesn't have a ton of beef going on. And then a really shaky Eagles team versus a almost as shaky Buccaneers team. Of course, you got the Matt Stafford returns to Detroit game, and then the Mike McCarthy revenge game in the Packers and the Cowboys. That's for wild card round. I want you to walk me through here. What are your picks for this weekend?
My picks, well, I think an obvious one to start off with is Buffalo over Pittsburgh. TJ Watt was ruled out. Sneaky, though. Sneaky. I think Pittsburgh might go make a move. They might go get the other Watt. They might go sign JJ, who's a retired free agent right now.
Ooh,
Actually,
interesting.
I think those two words just canceled each other's out, but he's a free agent. I guess technically he could sign wherever he wanted. If he went to Pittsburgh and played one playoff game in Buffalo, I think that would be awesome. So I'm rooting for that. But yeah, Buffalo over Pittsburgh easily. And then I'm gonna go KC over Miami just because I'm pretty sure it's gonna be like 10 degrees in Kansas City. I don't think Miami's gonna be able to handle that, so I'm going strictly based off the weather. And then Houston and Cleveland, I think that's gonna be like the game of the week. In the AFC, Houston and Cleveland too, just great stories this year. You got a rookie quarterback coming up, making an immediate impact, having a Pro Bowl season. And then Joe Flacco coming off the couch and carrying this Cleveland team to the playoffs. You got the old head versus the young buck, and I think that's going to be a really exciting playoff matchup. So I'm not going to make a pick there, but I'll tell you I'm rooting for Houston just because I like the young guy Stroud. I like some of the other pieces that they got. And then moving on to the NFC, I like Dallas over Green Bay, but I think Green Bay will put up a fight. I think this might be a shootout. I feel like every game I predict a shootout, but this one I think is legit. Jordan Love's been playing great lately. Had like a perfect passer rating last week against the Bears. No
Yeah, don't
offense.
remind me.
But this is a pretty good Dallas defense. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Dak Prescott's been fun to watch all year. CeeDee Lamb has torn teams apart, going for 200 yards on many occasions. Obviously, Tampa Bay and Philly. I'm shocked to see Philly playing an away game in the wild card round, uh, seeing that they were leading the NFC East all season. But I still think that they should be able to pull this one out in Tampa Bay. It's pretty much Baker Mayfield versus Jalen Hurts. And if Baker Mayfield beats Jalen Hurts, I think the Eagles have to start asking some questions internally. So I think that's a pretty meaningful game for Philly. They should walk through it, but if they don't, yeah, it's gonna be some question marks this offseason. And then the big one, Los Angeles Rams, Matthew Stafford, traveling to Detroit. Uh, Probably the biggest revenge game of the playoffs. As a Lions fan, it's gonna be emotional. I'm probably gonna cry. I cried when the list came out when they showed who we were gonna be playing. Um, Sunday night, man. I think either way this goes, I gotta be happy, right? Like seeing Stafford win a playoff game. Nah, man, I'm lying to myself. It would hurt. It would kill me if Stafford beat the Lions in their first playoff game in 30 years. It would kill me. This is a must win. This is a must win for the franchise, not just for the season, but for the next 10 years of this franchise. This is a must win. We need to show the Rams that we won this trade, that Goff is the guy. You can't just get rid of him and ship him from LA to Detroit and forget about him. He's gonna come back to hurt you. Stafford, you're old. I know that Puka Nacua had the greatest rookie receiving season of all time, they're saying, but yeah, I'm not scared. I mean, they got some receivers, they got some skill position players, and the Lions secondary looked horrible on Sunday, but I'm excited for this one. This is probably the biggest game in Lions franchise history. I'll say that.
I would agree with that there. And, let me just tell you, you said you're not scared, but it sounds like you're pretty scared right now of John
I'm
Matthew
scared. I'm
Stafford.
shaking in my boots over here. I'm sweating just talking about it. I just can't wait for that day to be over so I could either be just laying down. I don't know, man. It ruined my whole season because I was so excited. Lions first playoff game in 30 years. and we got to play Stafford? Are you serious? The script writers, man, they went crazy this year.
They
They
did.
went crazy.
All these matchups got some major heat to it. And to your point about Stafford and the Lions, I think people forget. You mentioned this a little bit. People forget. I mean, this is a Stafford revenge game, but this is a Jared Goff revenge game too.
Oh yeah.
Because when the Rams traded for Stafford, they were trading for Stafford. It's not the Lions weren't trading for Jared Goff. I mean, maybe I guess they were. He's still their quarterback, but really it was
Yeah.
like Stafford's the better guy. We're getting him, and we're giving up Goff and first round picks. So
Hmm.
Jared Goff, maybe, he's got home field advantage. They're the 3 seed, tied for the best record in the NFC, one behind the best record in the NFL.
Yeah, and
And
if we didn't have 80-year-old refs down there at AT&T Stadium who couldn't tell, they couldn't read numbers of who's reporting to them or not, we could be the 1 seed right now. We could be sitting there, we could be playing or we could be having a bye week actually this week. So, it's a game of inches, I guess. It's a
it's a
game of
game of
missed
getting the
calls.
right calls as well.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, if you get that call, which you should have gotten, there was just no way that Dan Skipper reported and Decker didn't, because Dan Skipper didn't even make it over to the ref in time. If you get that call, I mean, that's monumental. You could have the 1 seed. You could be playing, you could be having a first round bye. And
Hmm.
maybe if the Stafford revenge game gets to there, I believe you would play the Packers instead if they won.
Yeah.
And the seeding probably works out a little bit differently. But still, yeah, I mean, that's monumental. We might not even be talking about the Eagles playing an away game. Eagles could be still winning the NFC East. So that one call changed a lot of things. It had a major ripple butterfly effect. And you know what? I think that either way, at least Detroit fans will have something to cheer for after that game. So that's the good part. The bad part is you may get your heart broken by your former franchise
Yeah,
QB.
and that's some Detroit fans. Like, I rooted for Stafford in 2019 or 2020 when he won that Super Bowl, but like, nah, man. I'm too loyal to the franchise, not the player. I'm more loyal to the franchise. So if he tears our heart out, um, this Sunday, I don't know. I'm not gonna say what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut for now.
Yeah, for legal reasons, we'll keep our mouth shut. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what I think about this playoff match, because I think you had some picks here. The Eagles Buccaneers game is the one that I'm the most worried about, I will say, because I think on paper the Eagles should easily be the pick here, but the Buccaneers have shown that they've been able to compete with higher level teams. The Lions got the best of them this year, but besides that, I mean, they've put some points up on some pretty good teams. Another playoff team, the Packers, they absolutely destroyed when they played the Texans. That was a shootout, and that was like the C.J. Stroud breakout game. Um, there's a lot of questions right now for the Eagles regarding injuries. Is A.J. Brown going to play? Is Devontae Smith going to play? Is Jalen Hurts going to play? I think those guys will probably make their way to the field, but they might be banged up. Jalen Hurts' finger looked pretty badly dislocated last time. He did come into the game and play a little bit more, but he didn't look great. Meanwhile, Nick Sirianni needs to get his play calling together because they've made some questionable calls there. I think, the is he on the hot seat debate, that just comes down to classic Philly fans kind of known to switch up pretty easily. It's a pretty tough environment to play in Philadelphia because the fans are very, very, I'll say fair weather, depending on if the team is winning or not. I mean, the team is still 11-6. They're the 5 seed. This is the best matchup you could have of all these NFC teams. Like, you don't want to play the Cowboys again. You don't want to play the Lions. So this is the best matchup for them. However, I think that the Bucs at home can take advantage, with good game planning this week, can take advantage of the Eagles being really shaky and get a win there. And so I'm picking the Buccaneers. The Lions-Rams, I could really see that going either way. But for your sake, I'm going to go ahead and take the Lions as well. You guys have the better team on paper. You have the better record. My question
Yeah.
is the defense. That's the big concern. But you guys should be able to put up points against Stafford.
Yeah,
when
and I
it
think
comes,
we're getting some guys back for this playoff game. CJ Gardner-Johnson got some reps against Minnesota week 18. He'll be there in the secondary. Our secondary is really what needs help. That and the pass rush, which we had Ali McNeil back this week. That was big. He had a sack.
Really
Mike,
underrated guy. Arkansas
yeah,
State, right? Or was just Arkansas?
NC State.
NC State. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting. But
yeah,
yeah,
North
he's a
Carolina guy.
dog. Yeah, loved him in college. I'm
He's
glad
a
he's
dog
getting his
getting
bread now.
getting James Houston back as well, so the pass rush should be upgraded a little bit as well as the secondary. And we just need to play our best football, honestly. And I say this about like damn near every Lions game, but I think this will be a shootout.
Yeah, I mean, it should be. It really should be. You got a potential best head coaching candidate on your calling your offense, so you really should. And second best, arguably, head coaching candidate Aaron Glenn calling your defense. So yeah, you're gonna need to get to Stafford if you want to win this game. He's the only reason really why this team is a playoff team. Kyron Williams has been great, but Stafford playing like prime Stafford has been very important to this team's success. So getting to him in the pass rush is going to be critical. Another kind of upset game I'm going to talk about here is Packers Cowboys. Cowboys are 8-0 at home, and they're playing at home this week. However, I witnessed this firsthand. Jordan Love has been statistically one of the best quarterbacks against playoff teams this year. He's been one of the most highly graded players against playoff teams. And what an upset this would be. The Cowboys not lost at home at all this season. They're the 2 seed, won the NFC East. Packers had to beat the Bears to just sneak into the playoffs as the 7. But I'm going to take the Packers here. As much as it hurts me to say, I think they go into Dallas and hand them their first L of the season. Jordan Love has played really well against good defenses, and their losses have come from bad teams or not as competitive teams. Almost lost to the Panthers. The Buccaneers, he wasn't really the reason why they lost that game. Now, the receivers aren't going to be as open as they were in that Bears game. But Dallas, Stephon Gilmore's pretty banged up. We'll have to see if he plays. And I could see the Packers getting the sneaky dub here in Dallas. It's not going to be easy. But the Cowboys have a fashion of losing really important games in heartbreaking fashion. So I personally think that's what's going to go down in Green Bay.
That's true. Yeah, I could see that happening. I think Jair Alexander needs to step up because I witnessed it firsthand in that Saturday night football game when Lions played the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb went for over 200 yards. He had a couple touchdowns. Like, you need to stop that guy. That's their guy. You need to stop him. It's obviously their number one option. And Jair's kind of been proving that he does not care lately. Like, he just does not care. And I think if you want to win this game, you need him to step up.
Yeah, agreed. That's going to be critical. CeeDee Lamb is the X factor there. He's been the reason that Dak has had a great season, one of the reasons. And so that's going to be critical. Joe Barry, defense coordinator for the Packers, got to lock in. He played really well against the Bears last week. Can't have the same game that you had with the Panthers, allowing them to get 30 points. So that's going to be the key there. Going over to the AFC, I don't really see the Steelers upsetting the Bills without TJ Watt. I think signing JJ Watt would be a really interesting decision. That could be super intriguing. And I think that's going to happen in the next 5 days? I don't know, maybe. It depends on how in shape JJ still is at home, but that could be pretty interesting. So I think the Bills probably take that unless some crazy thing happens. But going over to JJ's former team, the Texans, I think this is a great opportunity to showcase what has made the Texans so good this year. They may not have a really strong roster, but D'Amico Ryans has been an excellent coach, been keeping that defense together. And C.J. Stroud, I mean, he's been unbelievable. So let me just say this. The last time these two teams played in the regular season, Joe Flacco helped Amari Cooper set a franchise record for receiving yards at 256, and the Browns absolutely destroyed the Texans. However, that was without Tank Dell obviously is out for the season, but without C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
So this is a really good it's hard to beat a team twice in 1 year. And so I think that the Texans have a really good opportunity to end the Linsanity run from Flacco here and make a statement at home. Two teams with no business being in the playoffs, really, besides from their quarterbacks. And so I could see the Texans taking this one.
Whichever team wins, I feel like I'll be rooting for in the next round just because they're going to be underdogs. Like, the Flacco story has been great, and same with the Stroud story. So, yeah, I'll be rooting for probably either of those teams, whichever one moves on.
And when it comes to Chiefs-Dolphins, I know I just said it's hard to beat a team twice in 1 year, So I could see the Dolphins taking this one. However, no matter how bad Patrick Mahomes' team is, I don't want to see him in the playoffs. And he is playing a home game. And so I think that the Chiefs are still going to take care of business against Miami, especially because poor Dolphins, I mean, just injuries have gotten to them. They've lost almost all the stars on their defense. Bradley Chubb went down. Xavier Howard was hurt. Jalen Waddle might not play on offense, and maybe not Raheem Mostert. So I think even though the Chiefs have a pretty awful receiving core, I think that they should be able to take care of business here.
Yeah, and I mean, I just kind of want to mention, like, tune into this game because it's going to be really cool looking. It's going to be like -10 degrees in Kansas City. It's going to be snowing. Going to be a good uniform matchup. Like, tune in. This is going to be a special one.
Absolutely. So we're about 46 minutes in. In 30 seconds, I want you to tell me who you think is going to win the Super Bowl this year and why.
I think it's the squad that's right behind you, man. The Baltimore Ravens. I mean, why? They've looked great all season. Lamar Lamar's having an MVP season. I think they have the best player in the league on their team. Um, I, I can't really think of a why, to be honest.
I think you said enough right there. Lamar Jackson is the energy that this team needs to win a Super Bowl. We'll see if he takes home the MVP. It's kind of a curse in a way because there's only been one guy to win MVP and the Super Bowl that year, the same year since Kurt Warner did it back in the early 2000s, and that's Pat Mahomes.
That's Mahomes.
So hopefully he broke that curse there if Lamar does win MVP.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, frankly, I'm shocked you didn't go with the Lions there. But I think I could see a Ravens-Lions Super Bowl. I could see a Ravens-Niners Super Bowl. I'm back and forth between the Ravens and the Niners, but I'm going to go ahead and just pick the Ravens. They have been dominant all year. Hopefully, if they end up playing the Lions, I think they would be able to take it home. If they play a team like the Niners, they might be in trouble. But, yeah, Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, he opens up the run game for all of the other backs, for Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. In addition, he's been great through the air this year. Zay Flowers having a great season. Rashad Bateman, when he's healthy, has been great. And OBJ is kind of establishing some connection with him. And the chemistry between him and Isaiah Likely has been great as well. And that's without mentioning the monster defense that they have. John Harbaugh, maybe not the most talked about Harbaugh at the moment right now, but definitely deserves some credit. He's done a great job. Yeah, in agreement with that there. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the player flashback for this week. Now, I have one of my all-time favorite wide receivers here. This guy helped a terrible Broncos, or Tim Tebow-led Broncos team upset the Steelers at home with a 75-yard touchdown that he caught on a slant, took it to the house. Rest in peace. He was a great guy, taken from us too soon. I'm talking about the legendary Demaryius Thomas. Broncos wide receiver, also spent some time in Houston and on the New York Jets. What do you remember about Demaryius Thomas?
Kind of like you talked about that game-winning catch in the playoffs with coming right from Tebow. I remember him being like a clutch guy, good jump ball guy. He's fast as well. Obviously rest in peace. That was sad to hear. But a pretty solid career. Had a couple seasons over 100 receptions, if I'm not mistaken. He was fun to watch for sure. I'm not a big Broncos fan, but I know he ended his career. He had like a weird stint kind of at the end of his career, going from Denver to Houston and then the Jets. Probably didn't end the way he wanted it to, but overall like a solid 7 or 8 year stretch where he was like a top 10 receiver in the league. So yeah, respect to him.
Absolutely. And we may not be talking about Peyton Manning's historic season without him having Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah.
First round pick at the end of the first, pick 22 by the Broncos in 2010. Obviously, that was before they had Manning. Didn't do a ton in his first 2 years, was kind of injury prone. Then 2012, played all 16 games, broke onto the scene. They targeted the man 143 times. He came down with 94 receptions, 1,434 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Next year, almost identical, 92, 14, 30, and 14, added 4 more touchdowns. And the 2014 season was his best year, 111 catches, 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1,300 yards the year after that with another 105 catches. And then his last real good year in Denver, 90 catches, 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. Almost had 1,000 the following year, 83, 950. And then in 2018 was traded to Houston at the trade deadline. But this guy, he's a 4-time Pro Bowler. Kind of disrespectful he didn't make an All-Pro team during that time with Peyton Manning, at least a first-team All-Pro. But he is a 2-time second-team All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler. Like you said, big body guy. He's a great jump ball receiver. He was 6'3", but he was fast as all hell. He had wheels on him for sure. That's why he was a freak of nature. Some people even called him Mini Megatron at the time, which was, Minitron, if you will.
That's a bit much, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's hard to compare to Megatron, but I will say Demaryius Thomas. I mean, so he put together 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 1,000-yard seasons in a row. Not to mention 4 1,300-yard plus seasons in a row, and 3 double-digit touchdown seasons in a row. This guy was one of my favorites to watch. Almost hit 10,000 yards for his career, 63 touchdowns. So borderline Hall of Famer. I could see him getting in there. I could see him not getting in there. But either way, I mean, this guy's tape was awesome. He was so fun to watch. He was a great locker room guy as well. And may he rest in peace. The NFL world definitely is worse without him.
Yeah, go watch some Demaryius Thomas highlights.
Much needed. He is fun to watch. So Demaryius Thomas, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you did to the game. That being said, we're going to go ahead and answer some questions on the show. If you guys want to ask some questions, be sure to leave them in the poll that will be on the Instagram every week. You can also leave them in the comments of the YouTube video. Instagram, Onside Kick Show, YouTube channel. You're probably already here right now. So the first question today is from Brady, and he asks, what was your favorite game of the regular season and why?
Well, for me personally, I got a little bit of a bias. I would have to say it was the Bucks versus the Lions game. Kind of weird, but I just like the vibes going down there to Tampa. I love it whenever Detroit plays at Tampa. Tampa had the creamsicle jerseys on. J-Mo caught a deep ball for a touchdown. That was really cool. It was kind of a breakout game for him. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a huge touchdown where he kind of caught a crossing route and he was coming across the field. And then our running back, Craig Reynolds, came from the backfield, laid a huge block to help St. Brown get into the end zone. A lot of highlights from that game. So yeah, a little bit biased, but as a Lions fan, that was my favorite game of the season so far.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. It's always good to see your home team like blow out another team or just play really well and have some exciting plays by another team. So I could pick a Bears game like the Falcons. I thought that was definitely one of my favorites. I'm going to go ahead and just honestly say the Week 1 opening game versus Buffalo versus New York, because that was so strange for me, but also set the tone for the rest of the season. There were going to be some quarterback injuries that you never like to see. Not that I necessarily root for Aaron Rodgers, but that was a great game to start out the year. Garrett Wilson had an amazing catch. Jordan Whitehead went for 3 interceptions. Josh Allen still kept his team in the game. It was really close. It came down to the wire. Kind of showed us, the Jets' defense was tough. The Bills needed some kinks to work out. But overall, I mean, that was great. I went to overtime, I believe, right? I think it was 22-16. And there was a walk-off punt return. But either way, I think it was because, the Bills destroyed the Jets the second time. So I believe it's funny because I remember that game for all the interceptions and the great catches, and I didn't even remember the punt return touchdown. But, that was a great way to cap it off.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably my vote, Brady. Another question here. Ben asks, what the Steelers could have been with a decent quarterback and not Matt Canada at offensive coordinator. So
Yeah,
they
they
finished
could have
10
been
and
Super
7
Bowl
now.
contenders. Honestly,
Yeah.
like when you have a guy like the Browns are showing it right now. Obviously, Myles Garrett's hurt, but Myles Garrett for like a 3 or 4 week stretch carried the Browns, and it's hard to do that as a defensive player, but he carried that team. I think T.J. Watt kind of has that effect, and if you have an offense that could put up like 24 points a game, you should be winning a lot of football games, especially in the AFC. So yeah, with a quarterback and a no coordinator, I think that team could have. I think it would have been a lot different. What are they right now? The seven seed?
Seven seed, I mean, somehow they finished 10 and 7.
Yeah, that's just all Mike Tomlin. That's coaching right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you get yourself an offensive coordinator, and I was telling you, Ben, last night, Justin Fields. I said, imagine what he would have done with the Steelers this year, and he was kind of like shooting me down. He was like, I don't know, we probably still would have been about 10-7, maybe like 11-6. I don't think so, man. I think you're overestimating Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. Um, Rudolph's only good on Christmas weekend. Nah, I gotta stop making that joke. That's my bad. But yeah, I think the
It's a good
Steelers
one,
should go
though.
get themselves a quarterback like a Jaden Daniels or something in this draft. Maybe a JJ McCarthy, and you'll see instant change, I believe.
And Mason Rudolph has something to say about that. That's why he's going to go and take down Josh Allen this weekend. Said
Yeah,
no one ever. So, yeah, I think if you want me to be specific, Ben, I think you don't lose to the Cardinals. You don't lose to the Patriots. Those were the two Mitch Trubisky games,
those were bad
mainly.
losses, man.
Same with the
Bad losses.
Colts as well. You probably don't lose to them. And besides that, I mean, you lost by 3 to the Browns the second time y'all played, and then the Jaguars you lost by 10 earlier in the season. Texans kind of blew you out, and Niners week 1. Honestly, I could see every single one of those games going the other way except for that Niners game. So could you be looking at 16-1 right now? I don't know. Maybe. The defense was amazing, and although you had some struggles in the passing game, you still were putting up 20 points a game, 30 points a game for most of the season. So, yeah, I think the quarterback, you just need a new quarterback. Like Gavin said, I think if we do get rid of Fields, that would be a great guy, great place for him as well with Mike Tomlin. So, yeah, I like that a lot. Um, last question, or last person asking questions, we have Mason. He's got a couple ones for us. First one, well, we talked about Vrabel getting canned. He was asking about that. And then best candidate for the Titans job. I would say just anybody who wants to come in and do literally
Yeah.
whatever you want with that team. You have no option at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, defense, whatever.
Yeah, I think the Titans, like the best option for them is just like a bridge guy. Like I mentioned earlier with the Panthers, like go get a guy who's a college coach right now or something because you're not going anywhere with them. I think it's going to be a good like 3 to 4 years before the Titans are good. But yeah, maybe an offensive mind, somebody who's going to help develop Will Levis because it kind of seems like that's the route that they want to go. They want to stick with Will Levis and kind of build around him. So maybe an offensive guy, maybe like a quarterbacks coach turned head coach or something like that. That's what I'd like to see in Tennessee.
It'd be funny if we saw Belichick take over for the Titans and Vrabel for the Patriots.
Yeah,
Could do a little swap there. Could be
yeah,
really
that'd be
interesting.
awesome. See him meet in the playoffs or something. That'd be awesome.
Right. And then another question from Mason. I do want to touch on this one because we briefly talked about it earlier. The take on Jameis Winston's touchdown at the end of the game and sportsmanship in the NFL.
I love it. I think I've mentioned on this podcast before, like I love Jameis Winston. I'll ride or die by Jameis Winston. Um, I thought the press conference in the locker room after the game, I thought that was awesome. How he just kind of told him he really he uh he stood up for what he did. You know, he took responsibility for his actions and he was like, yeah, man, I mean, I told the whole team, what do you guys want to do? They said, we want to get a touchdown. Jamal Williams, by the way, first touchdown of the season. He had 17 rushing touchdowns with the Lions last year. Franchise to franchise, things change, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Jameis Winston, I think he was in the right, honestly. I think the only thing I change about that is don't line up in the victory formation
Yep.
because when it looks like you're going to take a knee and then you don't, I mean, guys can get hurt almost. Like the D lineman might be taking a play off, and then all of a sudden the O line and Jamal Williams are just kind of like hammering into the end zone. So that's probably the only thing I change. But yeah, Dennis Allen has lost the locker room, and I'm shocked he still has a job. And Jameis Winston, I think I think he represents New Orleans. I think the people of New Orleans love him. And I don't know why they just haven't made him their quarterback for the next 5 years. Like just commit to Jameis. Like he's a great teammate. He's a great player. I mean, I know he throws picks every other possession it seems like, but like you just gotta ride with him, man. I love Jameis for that. And I think that's the most Jameis move of all time. Just be like, yeah, he wants us to knee it, but like what do you guys want to do? Like I kinda want to get Jamal Williams a touchdown. Like I love that personally.
Yeah.
I think that's how quarterbacks should be.
I could not agree more. Lining up in the victory formation is a little questionable, but aside from that, I mean, hey man, you're down 30 points already. It was like 41-10. Like it's one more touchdown. Otherwise, Jamal Williams was going to finish with 0. That goes to show you also that whether or not Dennis Allen is a good coach, they do have a pretty good culture there in New Orleans. The teammates are pretty tight. They stick up for one another. It's been like that for a while, and I'm okay with them getting Jamal his first touchdown of the season.
Yeah, and it was funny seeing Arthur Smith like really pissed. That was fun.
It was.
He
Go
was
take a
mad.
look at that video and then watch the assistant head coach in the top right corner walk by and listen to what he says to Dennis Allen, because I think that's even funnier.
What does he say? Or
I
you
cannot
can't?
say that on the air, unfortunately, but
Cool.
you guys can take a look at that video. It's pretty funny. But that's all the time we have for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Gavin, rooting for the Lions this week.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course. It'll be a good game to watch regardless. So, yeah, hoping for a shootout. If you guys like the episode, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, go give that Instagram a follow, and any other shameless plug I can think of, I'll put it in the description below.
Yep.
So,
And if you've made it this far into the episode, I want to offer you right now, comment down below your favorite football game from this season, the regular season, and you have a chance to win a gift card. So if you made it this far into the video, prove it to us by commenting down below, and we'll get you a gift card. Trust me.
and how much will be on that gift card, Gavin?
50, 50, $50.
$50.
Yep,
So, you
American
made it
dollars.
this far. You heard the man. Comment your favorite NFL game from this season. Trying to see who's really loyal out here. But nevertheless, appreciate all you guys, and enjoy this week of play football. Take it
Yep.
easy.
Thanks for listening, guys.